I would like to welcome you to this brand new feature with my friend Cecil, the Family Court Clown Bus from the Family Court Circus. Let me explain exactly what this new feature is. Over the last 6 months I have had a problem. I have had a growing list of around 75 new video titles that I would just love to produce. However, as soon as I get a great idea, someone calls me up for a chat, they tell me their story, which then gives me another great idea for a video. The first idea ends up on the list, and then the same thing happens over and over again. So, alongside my blockbuster features that will be continuing, I will also be publishing and sharing my thoughts on current and emerging issues in relation to the family courts in quick fire rounds. These videos with Cecil will be short, punchy, and will get straight to the heart of matters. So let's get started on this very first one. But before I do, as always, you know what's coming. Let's run my excellent introduction. My name is Philip Kedge and I am a retired Police Chief Inspector and the Director of the Mckenzie Friends UK network. And since 2016, with our independent Mckenzie Friends, we have been supporting thousands of litigants in person through the family courts with advice, guidance and support as lay people. My mission is to remove the destructive family court lawyers from the family court, who all too often stir the pot of acrimony for financial gain and, from what I observe, engage in thousands of pounds of totally unnecessary work, leaving their clients in crippling debt. To help me spread my message of taking the path of light, not hate, all I ask is that you like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you for your support. Unbelievably, the Family Court has recently increased its application fees by around 7.9%. The fee for applying for child arrangements is now £232, financial settlements £275 and divorce a whopping £593. Hold on a minute, I thought the introduction of no-fault divorce is simply going to be a statement stating that the marriage has irretrievably broken down, then repeating that statement 6 months later, and voila! That's the divorce, all done. No more hearings, no more contesting unreasonable behaviour, adultery, or whether you've been separated for 2 or 5 years. How can the cost increase? It should be slashed. With respect to child arrangements, as a service user with your private law cases for child contact, you are paying for perhaps one of the most broken, incomprehensible, inept government services that has perhaps ever existed. And the family court is now charging you more. Let me put that into some kind of personal perspective. I would rather end up in a large wood in the middle of the night faced with a man wearing a boiler suit and balaclava, who then tries to kill me with a screwdriver and lump hammer, than enter into the family court with a vindictive ex who wants to throw me under the family court bus, with spurious allegations of hate to minimise, reduce or deny me contact with our children. I say that with some qualification because I have spent over 10 years observing the destruction of child relationships within the family courts, and I have also fought for my life in a wood in the middle of the night with a man wearing a boiler suit and balaclava, who attacked me with a lump hammer and screwdriver. You see, at least physically fighting for your life, you have some control, you have choices. You can take a stand or try and run away, and whatever happens, good or bad, it will be over in a few minutes. You can give me that scenario, any day to the long drawn out mental and emotional punishment, cruelty, torture and humiliation of going through the family courts. Next up, Cafcass are in certain regions implementing their prioritization protocol. This means that they can delay allocating a case to a Cafcass family court advisor for up to, wait for it, 20 weeks. And then after 20 weeks, they can then progress a Section 7 report taking, wait for it, another 3 months. A gentleman contacted me the other day, having applied to the family court after being denied access to his children for 3 months. The first hearing, which they called a gatekeeping hearing, was conducted in private. Neither parent was even present. The order came out stating that Cafcass were to do a Section 7 report which had to be submitted 5 days before the next hearing. Wait for it. Not February next year, not March, not April, not May, not June, but July 2022. And in the meantime, no contact with his children. And of course, the extra kick in the teeth is that just before he put in his application, they increased the fees. Speechless. Let me put this into some kind of context. If ever the family court tells you that the best interests of the child is paramount, quickly come to terms with the fact that that's a load of bollocks. Your journey through the family court will become far easier if you accept that you are going to be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment and your children psychologically and emotionally harmed. It is a further irony when spiteful and vindictive resident parents make spurious allegations in relation to their ex's mental health. At the time of submitting their application, the mental health of the non-resident parent is fine. They just want to see their children. But as they progress through the madhouse of the family court process, they may well end up completely emotionally and mentally broken, in which case their ex now has a valid point. Welcome to the family court asylum. Let's now return to my favourite subject of spurious coercive control allegations. Since the publication of episodes 1 and 2 of my vlogs, Spurious Coercive Control Allegations in the Family Court, How to Strike Back, I have been inundated by non-resident parents sending me statements to read filed by their ex, and many of them have been some of the most outrageous, ridiculous, incomprehensible pages of self-pitying victimhood drivel that I have ever read. To put this into context, let me refer to Mr. Groves, my fictional family court training character, with this fictional scenario. Matthew's ex, Abigail Groves, has submitted a 10-page statement of hate in relation to their 12-year marriage where they have 2 children, Daniel aged 12 and Sandy aged 4. Abigail's statement is entirely filled with repeated sound bites such as, throughout the marriage, Mr. Groves has caused her extreme anxieties, extreme distress, extreme isolation, extreme fear, and she has had grave concerns about his parenting. She has been treading on eggshells for years. In support of this claim of grave concerns and all the extremeness, she relies on 3 texts and a letter from her parents. Firstly, Abigail claims that 5 years ago, after an argument, Mr. Groves ignores and abandons her for the rest of the evening, disappears without telling her where he is going, gaslighting her, causing her extreme trauma and anxiety. The text by Mr. Groves suggests that he was simply pissed off. It was just a marital spat. He went out for a few hours to escape from her aggression and didn't want to talk about it anymore. In a second incident 3 years ago, they had an argument and Abigail says that she received an abusive text, causing her extreme psychological harm that permanently damaged the relationship, for what she is now needing therapy to recover and move on from. However, the text contains nothing more than a display of frustration that Abigail was misguided. It accused her of being controlling and manipulative, and that she was delusional in what she was saying. You know, those kind of arguments and comments that we can all make in the moment. Lastly, during a family Christmas dinner 2 years ago, there was an argument between Mr. Groves and his father-in-law, which meant that the serving of the Christmas pudding had to be delayed, whilst emotions were allowed to cool down. The wine had been flowing. They made some comments. Mr. Groves accused the in-laws of interfering, and things ended up in the locking of horns and a row. According to Abigail, this caused the children to suffer extreme anxieties, and she was so terrified at Matthew's rage that she spent the next 2 years treading on eggshells in case such a reaction was provoked again. Abigail even produces a letter from her parents, who also coincidentally uses the phrase extreme rage. Matthew says, "That's a total nonsense. It's a fabrication. We had an argument. Things got a little heated on all sides for about 15 minutes. That was it. They delayed the Christmas pudding for half an hour and then moved on. Later that evening, they all had a fun family game of Monopoly." Mr. Groves sends me Abigail's statement to read. And for all the extremeness mentioned in it, my conclusion is that all it amounts to is an extreme load of bollocks. However, that statement and the letter from Abigail's parents, fueled by guess who, a family lawyer, has meant that the courts are applying Practice Directions 12J, and incomprehensibly they are considering a fact-finding hearing for domestic abuse and child abuse. Mr. Groves has not seen their children for months, and Cafcass has suggested that interim contact, pending any fact-finding, would only be appropriate in a contact centre. How many of you are in this position? Let's, however, now give Abigail and her sick lawyer the applause that they deserve for a masterclass in how to manipulate and weaponise the family court system in throwing her ex under the family court bus, using the children to punish and humiliate Mr. Groves, destroying loving bonds, childhoods and any chance of building that positive co-parenting relationship, to provide the children with the future emotional stability that they desperately need to thrive and develop. And thanks to the inept incompetence and stupidity of the family court, their mission has been successfully accomplished: to minimise, reduce and deny contact at every possible stage of the proceedings. Good job. And to all the family lawyers out there, don't worry about your conscience. Just keep focusing on your firm's monthly financial performance targets and strive for that all-important end-of-year bonus. So, who is actually in charge of our amazing, first-rate, outstanding family court system that we are so privileged to have? Well, it's this gentleman, Sir Andrew McFarlane. Apparently he rarely gives public interviews and it's difficult to find out much about him. So ask yourselves, does Sir Andrew fill you with pride in our family court system And do you get that sense of extreme confidence in his leadership ability? Does Sir Andrew like to talk to us, the public, the service users, to show us the way forward, to explain his thoughts, views, passions on how to make our family court system the best in the world? Or does he prefer to walk around in a flamboyant dressing gown, wearing a napkin, with a badly fitted carpet on his head? Of course, if he does, there's nothing wrong with that. On behalf of Cecil and I, thanks for watching.